Hello, my name is Z, and thank you so much for coming to my first devlog. Cart Merchant is an idle collecting merchant sim. In my devlog 0, I talked about all the things I hope the game will be. It's been about a month of development since my last video, and I can't wait to show you everything that I've been working on. If you haven't already, please watch my Dev 0 video. It's only a few minutes long. It will be the roadmap for the development of this game. In this video, I will be showcasing the main game loop for Cart Merchant and the skeletal framework for the game. Why skeletal? Because there still isn't a lot of art in the game yet. I wanted to make sure some of the basic parts are functioning before I start the time-consuming process of making art. I made this mistake with my first game, where I focused too heavily on the art in the beginning and didn't get the gameplay quite right. But before we jump into that, I thought it would be cool to show this chart of my time spent working on the game this month. I try to keep track whenever I'm working, but sometimes forget, so a few of these are rough estimates, and I tend to err on the side of caution. But I think it might be helpful for other developers to see the time commitment needed for a game like mine. Mainly, it helps me keep track of my time spent. For my previous game, I unintentionally took a break of several months, and when I came back, I had forgotten everything that my code did. So this really helps me keep on track and complete the game faster. This chart only goes until the day I do my video recording, but I'll have the full month available on my blog website. Overall, I felt like this month was pretty good as I laid down some heavy foundations, but I also felt like I could have been more consistent. There were a few multi-day gaps where I took a break from GameDev. Ideally, I want to work a little bit on the game every day, even if it's only for half an hour. Every little bit helps, and it's a lot easier to keep going than to stop and start. So on to the exciting part. My first goal when I am developing a new game is to try and create the minimum viable product. So what is that? The minimum viable product is the most basic aspects of your game put together that can still be considered a game. For example, World 1-1 of Super Mario Bros. You can jump, die, collect coins, and reach the flag to the end of the level. Technically, that one level could be considered a game, but the full game has many levels. You want to have your minimum viable product out as fast as you can so you can play, test, and show other people to get their thoughts and feedback. It will give you a better idea of what direction you want to go and which areas might need more work. You don't want to create 100 levels only to find out your game isn't what you really wanted. So the first step towards creating a minimum viable product is figuring out the main game loop. The main or core game loop is what the player is doing in your game. Remove all the non-essential features like pets, fishing mini-games, trophies, and figure out what the player is actually doing most of the time in your game. This is the core gameplay for your game. This is what defines your game. Take most dungeon crawlers like Diablo for example. You hack and slash enemies to find better gear to be able to take down stronger enemies to find even better gear. This is the essence of the game and what the player is doing most of the time. One of the first things I did was sit down and write out what the core gameplay loop for my game will be. I know that one of the key things I want the player to do is gathering or searching for materials and items. I wanted to recreate the feeling of searching for treasure or looting a dungeon. You never know what you can find, and with a bit of luck, it can be very valuable. Next is what will the player do with their newfound loot? This is core to the game, and I've even included it in the title, Cart Merchant. I wanted the player to be sort of a traveling merchant. I wanted the game to have an economy, or at least the simulations of one. Rainy seasons might make umbrella prices go up, or winter clothing demand will go down during the summer. All this fancy market fluctuations boils down to the player needs a way to sell their items. They can be strategic on when they sell, but ultimately, a core aspect of the game is exchanging items for gold. Lastly, what will the player spend all their hard-earned gold on? Traveling merchants always have carts to help them travel to far-off and exotic places. So to close off the game loop, player can use their gold to upgrade their cart. A higher leveled cart will let players find even better and rarer loot to complete the circle. I cannot emphasize how important creating a minimum viable product is. It took me so long to understand why it was so important to create the most basic version of your game first. I tried creating many games before that never came to fruition because I would try to build from the ground up, brick by brick. I was trying to create a whole game all at once with all the features, and it never worked out because I would be trying to do too much at once. And those games never became finished because it was just impossible. It took a lot of failures before I realized that making a game is more like building outwards. So onto the game. It's been about a month of banging my head against the keyboard, but this is what I have. I know it doesn't look like much, but I'm pretty happy with it so far. It looks pretty terrible right now, but all of the icons and colors are all temporary placeholder art. Most of it I've actually stolen from one of the previous games I was working on, just so that it'll be easier for me to get the core game loop up and running. So here we have the main screen of the game, I would say. This will be what I'm currently calling the gathering screen. Here you see you have a limited inventory. Think of it like your backpack as you go out and explore. And here are some timers for the times you spent searching. This was a little bit inspired by Neo Mushroom Garden, where the amount of time you search will impact the amount that you find and also its rarity. So we can choose different times, but right now all of these times are super short for faster testing purposes. So as we're searching, we're finding a lot of stuff. So we can put some berries in our backpack by clicking on them, or we can just say sell all and sell all of it right away. And we got some gold there. So this is the first part of the game loop where we can find and gather items. So all of the items get stored into storage, which is here, ta-da! And if you click on the little icons, you can see a little description. Right now it's just a lot of placeholder text. It's a juicy berry, got a leaf, some potions. I've also added a bit of code so that the rarity of the item is also tied into the text color. So this gray is kind of trash, green is common, blue is rare, so on and so forth. I'll probably be updating those a little bit later on. So now we have the first two parts of our game loop done. We have a way to gather the items, and we can also sell it. And we can also sell it from the storage as well, like that. The third part of the game loop is to spend your gold to upgrade. So in the upgrades tab, here we have a bunch of upgrades we could buy. Currently I only have one right now. I've called it the magnifying glass, which will increase a rare item find chance. So let's just go and buy a bunch of those. So I believe 10 is the max. I will be adding an icon here shortly, but now we should be able to find more rare items. So in our storage, we got a couple, but not a lot. Let's go search again and see what we get. So we know these are pretty common. Just sell those. Let's see if there's anything rare that we can find. Oh, that is new. And let's go see what new stuff we got. So, got a salve, which is also from a previous game that I made, but it's a legendary item. We also got a epic purple potion. That is maybe purple. Later on, I also want to add stacking for the items, so there's far fewer scrolling around on the different pages to find items. So there you have it. That is the main game loop so far. I was also able to add in some extra stuff. So here you can see a player level and a rank, but there's no code for it yet, so you are stuck at the noob rank. In the upgrade section, I also want to have multiple different carts that the player can use. So different cart types will be able to find the corresponding items. For example, the shadow cart should be able to find better shadow items, and so on and so forth. So I don't really have much types right now. I haven't decided on what I want yet, but right now we just have normal, basic beginner cart and a color hue shifted cart. But the system is in place now, so it should be easy to create more. So yeah, it doesn't look like much right now, but I think I've laid down the groundwork so that we can start expanding more into the details and polishing the game up a little bit. We also have a shop where NPCs can request items. For example, if you needed 99 carrots and you had 99 carrots in your storage, you can sell it to them. But right now there's no code to do that. You can also buy items from NPCs that you normally wouldn't find, such as crafting materials or special carts. But yeah, that is still something I have to do, and I do want to add in crafting into the game eventually, but right now I don't even want to think about it. That is far down the road. So yeah, I think that is pretty much it for what I have to show you for this devlog. My next steps, I think, are to definitely add more art for the game so that it looks way better than what we have right now. Next month, I will also be trying to expand past the core game loop, so there can be secondary game loops that I want to build. For example, like the different cart types and the items. Maybe add a little bit more of an economy to the game where the NPCs can sell you items and their price will be impacted by what the current economy is. Lastly, I want to put in a save state for the game. This way I can start putting the game onto my phone and testing out, seeing if it feels good, seeing if it feels fun. So I think that's about it for this devlog. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next devlog.